Hello and welcome to all to the Ask IITians. My name is Rishabh Pandey and I'm a physics faculty at Ask IITians. Probably you must have seen me in the previous lecture of this chapter, that is lecture 1 of Human Eye and the Colorful World. If you haven't watched that video, please make sure that you watch them as well, right? Moving on to the second lecture, that is the of Human Eye and the Colorful World, what we are going to be discussing today are the defects, the defects of the human eye, the defects of the human eye and their corrections. See, point is that there are various number of defects we have in our eyes, right? Some people can see far things very clearly, or some people can see nearby objects very clearly. So these are the defects which we generally face and how to recover out of them. If you remember, basically the lenses which we have in our eye helps in forming an image on the screen. Say there is a ray of light like this, and this ray of light say like this, and there was a coming and then converging over here, right? And this basically helps in the formation of the image. Here the image will be formed and the rays will be entering from here, correct? Generally these defects which we observe in our day-to-day life, these defects are generally due to the malfunctioning of this lens. If this lens due to aging starts malfunctioning, that they does not function properly, they does not converge or diverge properly, the power of accommodation is decreased. In this cases, this lens, then we generally face problems like this, right? Let's say there are three main common refractive defects. Refractive defects, why? Because there is a refractive index about which the lights basically converge. So these defects are called as refractive defects, and they are myopia, hypermetropia, and presbyopia, right? Let's see what they are. If I talk about the first one, so myopia or the nearsightedness is the first one, is also known as nearsightedness. Obviously, a person with myopia can see nearby objects clearly. So if see, this is the eye, and there's an object nearby. He'll be able to see those things very clearly, but cannot see distant object clearly. So for if the name of the disease is myopia, or if it is a nearsightedness, then we can remember that nearsightedness means clear, near objects are clear. Nearsightedness means near object are clear, whereas far objects are blur in nature. So we can see nearby objects but cannot see the distance object. A person with this defect has far point nearer than infinity, obviously. Such a person may see clearly up to a distance of few meters. Beyond that few meters, it's not very much clear. And this is the lens, as you can see over here, this lens. Now there is a defect in this lens, which ultimately focuses on this converging of this rays are responsible for this lens itself. So if this lens will not function properly, obviously the image formation will be not up to the mark, right? So the myopia is one of the diseases. I think this is clear, right? Let's say if I talk about presbyopia. In this situation, usually decreases with aging. This case decreases with aging, and for most people, it's a point gradually recedes away. And they find too difficult to see nearby objects comfortably and distant object distinctly without corrective eyeglasses. This defect is called as presbyopia, right? So in this situation, you can see, point is that in this situation, you can see uh, far objects clear, and near objects blur. So if it is blur, that means it's not up to the mark. Point is that this is generally due to aging. So these are the main points which needs to be considered when we talk about presbyopia, right? Similarly, if I talk about hypermetropia, or you can call it as farsightedness. As I said earlier, that for nearsightedness, near objects are clear and far objects are blur. Similarly, for farsightedness, far objects are clear, far objects, far objects are clear, and near objects are blur. Near objects are blur. Now, hypermetropia is also a person with hypermetropia can see distant objects clearly but cannot see nearby objects distinctly or clearly. You can talk, right? Clear, right? So here we have the lenses. Generally, what happens over here is that these lenses does not converge the rays properly. So since the convergence is not taking place, so the image is formed behind the retina, right? This is the place where the images are being formed, right? So these are the kinds of issues we generally face in our eyes, you know. Problem is if I want to talk about the corrections and corrective measures, how to rectify this, you know. Obviously we can rectify this by using proper lenses, proper lenses proper lenses like concave lens or convex lens, depending upon the situation and what power of the lenses. If you remember, there are two kinds of lenses. We must have studied this thing before in the case of light, that is concave and convex, right? Concave and convex. Now, if I talk about concave, it looks like this, isn't it? And convex looks like this. If it is a concave one, then obviously in this case the focal length has to be negative, and in this case the focal length has to be positive, probably, correct? So if I say that the power of, obviously, if for rectifying all these issues, we have to use lenses, right? And these lenses will have some power. Say if I say that the power of lens is minus 1.5D, then what kind of lens is he using? Minus 1.5D, that means the focal length will be minus 1 by 1.5 meters, right? And probably if it is negative sign, that means it is concave. And say if I am using a power lens of power plus 1.5, then obviously it is convex. As you can see over here, beyond a person cannot see distinctly objects kept beyond 2 meters. This defect can be corrected by using a lens of power. See, he cannot see far images very clearly. So this is a case of nearsightedness, and in that situation, if you use your senses properly, the answer which you are going to get is 0.5 minus 0.5D. Minus 0.5D, that means which kind of lens it is? Probably it is a concave lens. And by I know the properties of the concave lens, isn't it? Right? Concave lens, they are basically like diverging lenses, isn't it? Probably. The next is a student sitting on the last bench can read the letters written on a blackboard but is not able to read the letters written in his textbook. Which of the following statement is correct? That means can read the letters. That means far images are clear in this situation. Far image is clear, but near image is blur. So if you look at this, the near point of his eyes recedes away, right? Obviously, I mean, near images are blur, so that means it recedes away. Near point of this eyes has come closer to him. No, obviously not. The far point of the eyes has come closer to him. No. And the far point of the eyes has recedes away. Obviously not, because far points are clearer. So obviously the correct answer will be A. This was regarding the defects in the vision, right? We have one more question. The inability of eye to see the objects clearly is called as, obviously, defect of vision, isn't it? Right? So please make sure that you have gone through all these chapters again, right? And then you tried solving questions from the Ask IITians module and the reference book which you have, right? Thank you.